As investors growing up, we've been constantly told that the person with the most properties win. But with the cost of interest rates, land taxes, and the cost of living here in Australia absolutely surging, the old buy and hold anything strategy is officially dead. We are no longer in a market like 2020 where you can literally buy anything anywhere in Australia and the rising tide is going to lift all boats. We now need to take a data-backed, scientific, handcrafted approach to designing a portfolio and a strategy that uses both long-term and short-term property investment fundamentals, coding and AI to find that needle in the haystack, not just market, but also suburb and property. Which is why in this video, I'm going to show you the exact two strategies that we're using in 2026 with 5 examples of houses that we've picked up in the last 2 months for our clients. Now, as an investor who's obsessed with data, I recently sat down and studied the Australian property market, and I looked at the 20 biggest markets in Australia. For example, all of the capital cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane, Perth, etc., as well as the largest regional markets in the country, like your Wollongongs, your Sunny Coast, your Geelongs, etc. Now, when I pulled apart the data, I looked at 1 year, 3 year, 5, 7, 10, 18, and 30-year performances across each of these markets. Now, as you can imagine, this was a massively time-consuming activity, but why it's so important for you as an investor in 2026 is one reason. Now, that reason is we can use this data to drive better quality investment decisions for ourselves and the people we care about from this year forward. Now, what I realized when I looked at the data over the last 18 years, so the performance of the top 20 markets in Australia from 2007 until now, was that all of them have done extremely well, with the biggest markets doing over 200% on average or 10% a year over that 18-year period. But when I started to reduce the data set backwards, what was most interesting was the last 7 years, where markets like Perth, Adelaide, Brisbane, the Sunny Coast and the Gold Coast had done over 100% growth, and markets like Melbourne, Geelong, the Mornington Peninsula and Darwin over the same period had done significantly less, in some instances less than 30% growth over the same period of time. Now, why this is relevant for you as an investor is as we go into the market, knowing that long-term all of these markets have done well, and as investors we should be taking a 10 to 15 year approach to any property we buy. But as we enter the market and we want both short, medium and that longer term growth, we can strategically pick the eyes out of the market using this data. So instead of rushing into Perth, which has done extremely well in the last 7 years, over 100% growth, we might look at an alternative market like Melbourne, for example, over the same period of time that has done 75% less growth than Perth in the last 7 years alone. Now, on top of using this long-term data across the entire Australian market and the best performing markets historically, we then can use a fundamental approach or a scientific approach to the types of assets we collect from here on out. Now, for me, that means houses on nice big pieces of land with good bedrooms, bathrooms and floor plans in quality suburbs and quiet streets, either close to the city or close to the beach in Australia's largest markets. I think the biggest opportunity in 2026 is to target the missing middle, which is the undervalued markets that aren't getting the attention around the country at the moment, as well as the properties within those markets in that $600K to $1 million range that most Australian investors and homeowners can afford in 2026 moving forward. Now, I personally think the key shift from the 2020 to 2025 market into the 2026 market is now taking more of a hybrid approach to the assets that we buy. The first is to target the most undervalued markets in the country and high quality single income houses close to the city or close to the beach. And the second is more of a dual income strategy to not just get the benefits of timing a market and the long-term capital growth, but also getting exceptional cash flow and exceptional tax benefits from a house and granny flat strategy. Now, the first property that I wanted to show you is one that we picked up on the 18th of December, 2025. Now, this 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage home is on a big 576 square meter block. Now, as you can see, this beautiful brick tile slab on ground home is in pretty good nick. What I love about this property, which is part of this missing middle strategy, is it's catering to larger families and investors who have higher budgets, and therefore you're getting more bedrooms, more 4 bathrooms, an oversized living, as well as breakout spaces like offices or second media rooms. What I love about this property as well is, as you can see from the alfresco, it perfectly caters for the Australian investor with that beautiful undercover deck entertaining area, along with a beautiful, big, well-maintained, low-maintenance backyard and storage for anybody who's looking to move into the property. Now, if we were to compare this particular property, which is in Melbourne, 32 k's in the city and about 14-minute drive to the beach, versus something in North Brisbane, say 40 kilometres up the road like Morayfield, this piece of land in Brisbane alone would be almost $700,000 to buy right now. And that suburb in Brisbane over the last 10 years would have gone up over 100%. Now, when we compare this property, we're getting the house versus a piece of land in Brisbane for about $50,000. But as you can see, this is a massive home which would cost over $500,000 to build in its own right. And we're buying a suburb that has literally done less than 25% price growth over the last 7 years. So not only are we looking at the long-term and short-term fundamentals of one market versus another, but you're getting a property that in Brisbane would cost you, completed today, over $1.2 million for just $750K in Melbourne. Now, a second example of this sort of missing middle, affordable, high-quality, single-income strategy in Australia's most undervalued areas is 12 Gamesley Avenue in Werribee. Now, we picked up this beautiful 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage home in early 2026 for literally $730K. Now, as you can see, it presents absolutely beautiful from the street, but when you look inside this particular property, it is in beautiful condition. Not only is this property extremely low maintenance and tenant ready, but it is extremely well presented for tenancy, and because it is so modern, would have some significant tax depreciation benefits as well. Now, as an investor personally, over the last 16 years, I bought 20 properties, and 14 of those properties are this simple bread and butter, high quality, best market in Australia, single income strategies. And all of those properties served a purpose, especially when I got the timing and the scientific or database approach to picking up those properties right. But 6 of the properties that I've done in the last 16 years have been something with a little bit of a twist, because it is nice to buy and hold the right properties at the right time. But on top of that capital growth, as I grew as an investor, I also wanted to reduce my risk, increase my income, get some tax benefits, and obviously nail the timing of everything I buy from today forward as well. So as we move into 2026 and beyond, there was a period of time where houses and granny flats represented incredible value at the start of COVID, and then the price of building them got a little bit bubbly and the market sort of settled for them for a while, and now that strategy is absolutely back. I was actually talking to one of our clients this morning on my way to work after jumping out of the surf, and he lives down there in Byron, an absolute legend, and we bought him a property similar to the ones that I'm just going to show you in a moment in Brisbane about 5 or 6 years ago. Now, this was a simple home that he rented out, and then he went and built a 2-bedroom granny flat out the back. Now, at that time, his entire cost of the project was less than $600K, and for that 6-year holding period, he's got great rent, great growth, and great tax benefits. But recently his position has changed. In his early 40s, he's sort of decided to semi-retire. He sold his business recently and he's been traveling Australia. And he decided, I might have a look at what this property is worth, and if it's gone up in value, I'll sell it. Now, I talked to him today and his property has just been sold for $1.2 million just 6 years later. So not only has he got the incredible cash flow and tax benefit, but the property has grown in line with market values, and he's got an incredible capital gain as well. Now, an example of this strategy working in real life right now, and markets that I like this in, is definitely Brisbane, definitely Melbourne. It works extremely well in Geelong, the Mornington Peninsula, and the Sunshine Coast as we speak. Now, as you can see, I've got 16 Albatross Avenue in front of me at the moment, and that's a property we bought for a client back in November last year for $720K. Now, this beautiful 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 2-car garage home, as you can see, has a monster backyard. Now, for this particular property at $720K, we'd hopefully be expecting somewhere between $400 and $500 per week for the front home. And then once we complete the 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom granny flat out the back, on top of the tax benefits, we'd be hoping for at least $300 to $400 per week in rent for the granny flat. Now, when I look back to the Brisbane example from my friend James, who we bought for $700K, including the construction of the granny flat about 6 odd years ago, When we picked up that property, it was originally renting for about $400 a week for the house and $280 a week for the granny flat. But over that 6 years, as more and more people came into the Brisbane market, obviously on top of the growth he received, the rents went up to the point where that front home is now renting for over $650 a week, and the granny flat is getting over $500 per week. So while the numbers, for example, in Melbourne or Geelong may look a little bit suppressed at the moment from a rental perspective, over time, as we see the 160,000 people a year continue to move into the Melbourne market, combined with the lack of supply and the high demand for property down there, we will see rents drive up, which the locals can absolutely afford because they earn over $100,000 per year in this suburb alone. Now, another example of this strategy in real time and real life right now is 37 Lagana Drive, which we picked up for just $620,000 back in November 2025. Now, again, we've got another brick tile slab on ground property that's in good nick, tenant ready and low maintenance, but what we love most is the potential to add that 2-bedroom granny flat out the back and increase the rent return over time. You know, at the end of the day in 2026, we no longer need 10 properties to be free. In fact, the simplest way to move forward and achieve a passive income of over $100,000 per year and get yourself into a position where you're wealthy with incredible cash flow for life and all of the choices that you want to make for yourself and the people that you care about in your future is to either go for 3 simple single income properties like I just explained, or maybe if you don't even want to go for 3, just 2 houses with 2 granny flats that become your foundation to either leverage off and keep going in the future if you want to play big, or potentially if, like me, you're interested in a small number of properties and an incredible lifestyle where you get the freedom and the choice to become the person that you were created to be, to spend the time with the people that you love, to do work that you enjoy, to spend your time on meaningful and purposeful things in your life, to train more, travel more, volunteer more, contribute more to help your siblings out, your friends out, your family out, then I think targeting one of these extremely simple ideas, whether that's just beautiful, high quality, undervalued single income property, or the same thing but adding a little bit of a twist and getting a granny flat on them, is the way to go for 2026 moving forward. Now, if you, like me, are planning to buy 1, maybe 2 investment properties in the next 12 months, I would love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session. To book that, simply jump over to www.pumpedonproperty.com, click that free strategy session button, and we can talk about where you are right now, your dreams and goals for the future, or where you'd like to be longer term. We can educate you on the Australian property market. We can look at the 20 best markets in the country, and then you can take all of that information and go and absolutely smash it yourself. Or we can talk about how you can potentially become one of the extremely small number of clients that we choose to work with one-on-one as your very own property investment coach every single month. But either way, we truly wish you the best for 2026, and I'm looking forward to hearing in the comments below your plans for the new year.
It was